Welcome to the Palm Beach International Airport. Despite my frequent use, each departure is different, and today's departure is sure going to prove to be unique. As usual, my flight today is on board Delta, and what makes me super happy is the fact that I'm headed to LaGuardia. So come with me as I work my way from the land side to the air side by passing through the TSA checkpoint for the Charlie gates. Today's flight is going to have a very interesting departure, but for now, I'm focused on the arrival phase of flight, and I met a gate agent to do something that I've never heard any other passenger ever doing. Well, everybody, I have done it again. I had a seat in Comfort Plus, but I just downgraded myself to the main cabin. Why? Because my seat was on the right-hand side of the aircraft, and I need to be on the left-hand side of the aircraft because that's the side that is going to provide the great views of New York City and the airport this evening, because LaGuardia is landing on runway 22 with left traffic. Today's aircraft type is going to be a Boeing 737-900, and we're doing the standard route up to LaGuardia today. It's the water route, so it should be a pretty normal flight. All right, everybody, unfortunately, there's not going to be any airplane photo because I can't see through these windows. There's just way too much reflection, and it's already dark outside. But I will be on an airplane with a window, with a well-aligned window, in a window seat. That's what matters, of course. Today's call sign is Delta 856. Yes, I've been on that flight before, and once we taxi, you'll be listening to our pilots use that call sign to talk to ATC. I'm in the back of the plane today, and I'm not missing the extra legroom in Comfort Plus. We're all set for an on-time departure. Let's push back. This is the side of the plane to be on. First of all, we will need to make a left turn after takeoff because directly ahead of the departure runway 10 left, is Mar-a-Lago. Owned by Donald Trump, the FAA has issued a year-round flight restriction over it. So once we take off, we'll make a sharp left turn to 70 degrees, which means that the wing will dip to the left and put us very close to downtown West Palm Beach. After flying straight out for so many flights, I'm thrilled to get a closer-in view of the West Palm Beach skyline. Previously, this left-hand turn was only applicable when President Trump was physically at Mar-a-Lago, but since it's now year-round, every flight gets to experience this exciting low-level climb. But we need to get to the runway, so it's time to check in with Palm Beach Ground Control.
Unit ground, Delta 856, Alpha Charlie 3, ready to taxi with Papa. Delta 856 ground, and then 10 left, taxi Charlie 7 Charlie, crossing runway 14. 10 left, Charlie 7 Charlie, cross runway 14, Delta 856.
We're told to taxi to runway 10 left via Charlie 7 and Charlie, and along the way we can cross runway 14. That's pretty standard, and it's not the first time this flight has been given this clearance. Taxiway Charlie leads all the way to the departure runway, and once we get there, we'll wait for the tower controller to put us on the runway and issue us takeoff clearance. We left the gate early, and we're taxiing out with no delays this evening. There's no one in front of us, and we'll get to the runway right away. Runway 10 left is being used for both arrivals and departures, and there's very little traffic using the runway this evening. Now that we've established ourselves in taxiway Charlie, I can talk a bit more about this flight restriction for arrivals, because if a plane were to land on runway 10 right in the opposite direction, which is runway 28 left, they would have to fly directly over Mar-a-Lago for a straighten approach. I've experienced that several times myself, but with a flight restriction, it's not allowed. So instead, aircraft approaching runway 28 left will have to approach the shoreline a few miles north of Mar-a-Lago with the nose pointed toward the runway, but just before landing, a sharp right-hand turn needs to be made to line up with the runway to land. This means that runway 28 right needs to be in sight. Basically, an arrival to runway 28 right will do what a departure from runway 10 left does in reverse. So as we take off, consider that an arrival landing in the opposite direction will take the same flight path that we take, just going the other way. Both avoid Mar-a-Lago and put low-level air traffic over an area that is not aligned with the runway and over an area that's not used to seeing any PBI arrivals or departures at all. As we look at the runway from this side of the plane, I'm waiting to see the departure prior to us. It's American Airlines Flight 1844 bound for Dallas-Fort Worth. Once that plane takes off, the runway is ours, and because of this, the local controller will issue us takeoff clearance right away without having us to be told to line up and wait. The controller will also tell us to turn left to 070 and maintain 4,000 feet after takeoff, and then we can resume the normal published departure procedure, the slides 2, once the departure controller tells us to do so. The slides 2 is the standard departure procedure calling for flying straight out after takeoff, but the 70-degree heading overrides that until ATC puts us back on course. With the American flight that we just saw airborne and no one on final approach to any runway at PBI, we're now going to get the clearance that we need to get to make that special climb out. Here's the tower with the detailed message that I just explained. Let's go.
Delta 856, Palm Beach Tower, turn left, heading 070, and maintain 4000. Expect to resume the slides 2. Runway 10 left, wait for takeoff. Left turn 070, up to 4000, 10 left, clear takeoff, Delta 856.
Okay, all we need to do is turn the corner at the end of taxiway Charlie onto taxiway Charlie 1 and take off. A complete U-turn will be made. I've done this so many times, but I'm really looking forward to this one with that left turn to avoid Mar-a-Lago. To confirm we're entering runway 10 left on taxiway Charlie 1, we can see the signs that indicate this. The flashing lights on the ground indicate that we're officially entering the runway. Now, as we turn around, I'm looking out for the previous departure that we saw, American 1844. After takeoff, it flew to the left to 70 degrees, just like we will do in a moment. Since that flight is headed to Dallas, it will make more left turns to head to the west, but we'll just continue out to sea before heading northeast to New York City. Let's avoid Mar-a-Lago and head over to LaGuardia. Okay, we're airborne, and as soon as possible, we turn left from the current 100 degrees to 70 degrees as the tower controller hands us off to the departure controller.
Delta 856, contact departure. Good night. Departure Delta 856, good night.
What a great dip of the wing as we fly over I-95. Once we check in on the 70-degree heading, we'll get cleared up to 12,000 feet, and right away, the controller will have us join a fix on the slides to departure. The fix is Slides itself. Slides is located over the water around 20 miles east of Juno Beach. Let's check in.
Giving departure Delta 856, 1.2, climbing 4,000, 070 heading. Delta 856, climbing departure, radar contact, climb maintain 12,000, clear direct slides. 12,000, direct slides, Delta 856.
I love how close we are to the tall buildings. I'm liking this flight restriction. In a moment, we'll start a very slight left-hand turn to proceed directly to Slides. Down there is the barrier island of Palm Beach, and in just a few moments, we'll be out over the Atlantic Ocean. Now, if we were to fly directly straight out over Mar-a-Lago, we would typically follow the Slides departure procedure from the very beginning, which calls for us to fly straight out to a fix called Kremen. It's about 4 miles offshore. From Kremen, the flight would turn to the left to a fix called Ryder, which is about 6 miles offshore from Pinewood Park. After Ryder is Arback. It's about 4 miles northwest of Ryder. The next fix is Slides, and since we missed the first few fixes, we're cleared directly to Slides, and from Slides, we can proceed on course to the northeast toward LaGuardia. So for the rest of this flight, we'll just follow the flight plan all the way to the New York City area, and once we get to New York, we'll then receive radar vectors to the final approach course to the landing runway. Wasn't that downgrade from Comfort Plus on the right side to main cabin on the left side worth it? Well, it doesn't end here, and the seat selection on the left-hand side was actually chosen for the upcoming Manhattan view while on approach to LaGuardia. We just experienced a fantastic climb, and will experience a marvelous descent, all with the price of a Delta ticket. That was a really nice climb, and just like I expected, we made that left-hand turn to 70 degrees. Looks like everyone's doing that these days. Sorry, the person behind me put their light on. It was hard to see out with the overhead light on behind me, but here's where we are now. After flying over the ocean for the first part of this flight, we eventually made landfall as we continued to the northeast. Down there is Wilmington, North Carolina. Not a ton to see right now. There's a cloud cover down there, and there's not a lot of passing traffic. Since the en route phase of flight was uneventful, let's move forward to the approach and landing phase. Here we have descended and are ready to check in with New York Approach Control.
Evening approach, Delta 856, 13.1 descending via the Proud with Quebec.
Delta 856, altimeter 2996, and it looks like Romeo just came up.
All right, 2996 will get Romeo, Delta 856.
I'll speed up the next few transmissions since there wasn't much to see here. Our next clearance was to proceed directly to the LaGuardia VOR navigational aid located near runway 22.
Delta 856, clear direct to LaGuardia.
Direct to LaGuardia, Delta 856.
Then we were clear to 8,000 feet.
Delta 856, descend and maintain 8,000.
Descend 8,000, Delta 856.
Shortly after that, we were cleared down to 4,000 feet.
Delta 856, descend and maintain 4,000.
4,000, Delta 856.
We'll be out of the clouds soon, and I'll be providing all air traffic control in real time now. We've just completed the Proud arrival procedure for the flights that are approaching from the south. Once we break out of the clouds, we'll initially see Staten Island. Our landing runway will be runway 22. LaGuardia's departure runway will be runway 31. And to get to runway 22, we need to circle around LaGuardia since we'll be landing in the opposite direction that we're flying in now. We'll need to pass LaGuardia to its east since runway 31 departures will climb to the west. So Manhattan will be visible on this, the left side of the plane this evening. You'll see in a moment how this was worth the right side Comfort Plus downgrade to the left side main cabin available seat. All right, here comes the exciting part. We're breaking out of the clouds now as we head directly toward LaGuardia Airport. We missed the views of New Jersey and Pennsylvania, but that's Staten Island down there, and you can see Union and Middlesex counties in New Jersey behind it. The highway cutting across Staten Island leads to the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, which leads to Brooklyn, and passengers on the right side of the plane are starting to see Brooklyn. As we continue to descend to 4,000 feet, we start to notice New York Bay on the right side of the screen. This is an indicator to me that Manhattan is coming up very soon. In a few moments, we should be able to see downtown Manhattan and its cluster of tall skyscrapers. The view will be great, but we must not lose sight of what will happen when we get across from downtown from an air traffic perspective. Once past the Brooklyn Bridge, the controller will have us turn right to 70 degrees. This turn helps set us up so that we can pass by LaGuardia Airport to its east. If we kept this heading, we'd fly right over the airport and right over the runway we need to land on in the opposite direction where we're going now, so bringing us around the airport will help us more easily line up with the runway later on. Right under the wing, we can start to see Battery Park. We're a little higher here than I've been in the past, but we'll be at 4,000 feet very soon. I'm going to zoom in for a better view this time around. Despite some haze out there, the view is stellar. This never gets old. This is worth the price of the ticket for sure. Too bad not everybody on this side of the airplane is looking out the window. We can clearly see One World Trade Center, the East River, the Hudson River, the Brooklyn and Manhattan bridges, and South Street Seaport. All right, we're now approaching the point where we can no longer continue on this heading, so it's time for the controller to turn us around 30 degrees or so to the right.
Delta 856, turning 070.
Heading 070, Delta 856.
The 70-degree heading moves us away from Manhattan, but we'll still have some great midtown views. It also allows us to get views of northwestern Queens, and of course the dip of the wing on the right side provides Brooklyn views to right-sided passengers. Nearly every flight coming in from the south makes this turn at this point at the command of the approach controller. One of the reasons why we're turning here is that it keeps us close to LaGuardia and away from the airspace of JFK, which is off to the right. Here we hug LaGuardia and remain close to it to remain inside its airspace. There's a similar path that LaGuardia arrivals take when landing on runway 31 and coming in from the south like we did. It's called the RNAV X-ray approach and roughly follows this path at a lower altitude. When over Flushing Meadows Corona Park, planes will turn left and land on runway 31. Once we get to Flushing Meadows Corona Park, we'll also turn left but continue to the northeast to start the left downwind leg to runway 22. LaGuardia Airport is now coming into sight. The darker areas of the airport are the runways, and as we get closer, we will clearly see the terminals as they are very well illuminated. We're about ready to get the turn to 50 degrees, and we'll get cleared down to 3,000 feet, a sign that traffic is not too heavy, and we won't be going too far out on the downwind leg.
Delta 856, turn left, heading 050, descend and maintain 3,000.
050 down to 3,000, Delta 856.
What a view! We're looking down runway 31, the departure runway, and we can see how once planes are airborne, they climb away from where we are right now, allowing us to use this airspace east of LaGuardia. If runway 13 were the departure runway, planes would be climbing where we are right now, so we would be west of LaGuardia. If you look very carefully, there's a plane about to touch down on runway 22 over the water. We'll be in that position in just a few short minutes. As we get closer to landing, the controller comes back to tell us to reduce our speed once we get to 3,000 feet.
Delta 856 at 3,000, reduce speed to 180.
At 3,000, slow 180, Delta 856.
The body of water down there is the East River, and we can see the Whitestone Bridge connecting Queens to the Bronx. In a moment, we'll fly over the Throgs Neck Bridge, which marks the beginning of the Long Island Sound. The game plan is to make a U-turn around the Sound and head in the other direction along the east shore of the Bronx down to runway 22. But the question is, how far out will we go? Well, that depends on how many planes there are ahead of us. I can't imagine that we'll be going out too far today because the controller already descended us to 3,000 feet. When traffic is heavy and we need to go far out, we typically won't get the clearance to 3,000 feet right away. Well, it turns out that there's really no one near us at all, so we won't be going super far out. Since we'll be flying an ILS approach, we will need to go far out enough to get established on the glide slope and localizer, but not too far out. By the way, there's another stream of arrivals to runway 22 that comes in from the north for flights that come from origins like Boston or Toronto, but there's no one on that path now. The island that we've been looking at down there is City Island in the Bronx. We'll basically be circling that island tonight. Under the wing is New Rochelle, New York, which is just north of the Bronx. We'll be making our final approach turn to the runway around New Rochelle, and in order to get there, the controller is about to have us make our left base leg. We'll be told to turn left at 320 degrees and get clearance down to 2,000 feet. 2,000 feet will be the altitude at which we will intercept the final approach course to runway 22.
Delta 856, turn left heading 320, descend and maintain 2,000.
Left head 320, down to 2,000, Delta 856.
320 degrees puts us almost at a right angle to the runway 22 final approach course over Long Island Sound. The controller will have to issue us one more turn to the left for a better intercept angle to join the runway 22 localizer so we don't overshoot it. The turns are a breeze for the approach controller this evening because there are no worries at all about separation from traffic ahead of us. There just isn't any. My apologies about the focus issues here. During nighttime conditions, it can be tough to focus. As we turn back around, we briefly encounter the southeastern corner of Westchester County. We'll need an intercept heading of around 30 degrees to join the final. In a few moments, the controller will issue a 250-degree heading. The ILS approach course is on a heading of 224 degrees. We'll be told to maintain 2,000 feet until established. We'll need to cross the Fix Greco, which is 5.5 miles out over Pelham Bay Park at 1,900 feet, then descend straight on into the runway.
Delta 856, turn left heading 250, 2,000 still established, set off runway 22 approach.
Heading 250, 2,000 to establish, cleared for the ILS, 22 approach, Delta 856.
Okay, we're cleared for the ILS approach to runway 22. The approach controller is done with us, but has many planes to focus on behind us. We just got lucky that there was no one in front of us. It's now time for the handoff to the local controller in the tower at LaGuardia so we can get our clearance to land on runway 22.
Delta 856, contact Guardia Tower 18.7.
18.7, Delta 856, good night.
Good night.
Okay, it's time to check in on frequency 118.7.
Being Tower, Delta 856, ILS 22.
The controller puts a plane in position on runway 31 first, then clears us to land.
Break your 5669 Tower, runway 31, line of point.
31, line of point, break 56,
56, number 1, clear to land 22, 129, 012.
22, clear to land, Delta 856.
As we fly over Orchard Beach and view City Island, we're clear to land on runway 22. With no one else on approach, the only thing that the controller in the tower does is tell planes to line up and wait on runway 31 and issue them clearance for takeoff and hand them off to departure control. We'll hear a departure being told exactly that once we cross the intersection with runway 31. He's also handling a helicopter, and you'll hear the controller talk to the chopper pilot and reference us on short final approach. We won't hear the chopper pilot's voice, however. Once we get closer to landing, the next arrival, United 472 from O'Hare, will check in. I'll remain silent for now until we get on the ground so you can hear everything.
So therefore 20.8, good night.
20.8, south of 3420.
Figure 5669, 129, 01031, clear for takeoff.
31, clear for takeoff, right at 56, 59.
Again, 725 Tower, runway 31, line of point.
Line Boeing 31, Air Canada, 75.
19 LaGuardia, what's the request? As requested, direct Ridgewood, traffic mile and a half mile inbound runway 22 is Airbus, 73 rather, descending through 69. Okay, proceed direct Ridgewood. Thank you, maintain visual traffic for 5, Airbus 669, 20.8, connect.
40.8 for Cal 5669.
Thank you, United, US Tower.
472, we are just about over Kirkup.
472, number 2, clear to land 22 with 2908, traffic miles on a short mark.
Clear to land 22, United 472.
Aircam 725 with 2909, runway 31, clear to takeoff.
Takeoff runway 31, Aircam 725.
73396 tower, runway 31, line of way. 31 line of way, 73396. Delta 856, exit Yankee to join Bravo. Actually, excuse me, Charlie. Charlie to join Bravo, ground point.
Charlie Bravo, ground point 7, Delta 856, good night.
It's our pleasure to welcome you to New York City, where the local time is 10:06. Please stay seated with your seatbelts securely fastened and carry on items stowed until the captain has turned off the seatbelt sign. And be careful when opening the overhead vents to avoid injury from items that have shifted during the flight. Please ensure you have all of your personal belongings before deplaning. As we reach our gate, we invite you to use the Fly Delta app for important baggage and connection information. For customers requesting wheelchair assistance, we will let you know when you are able to disembark the aircraft.
Okay everyone, the video ends here at LaGuardia. From a sharp left turn after takeoff to a stunning arrival to LaGuardia, I want to emphasize how looking out the window can be more exciting than an extra legroom seat. Looking out the window is, as always, a joy and privilege. So don't forget to join me the next time I'm on a flight where I'm seated at the window. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. See you all very soon.